Hi, this is Aussie Graver. Welcome to the Coburg Pine Ridge Pioneer Cemetery. It's actually in Preston in Melbourne. Coburg Pioneer Cemetery opened for burials in 1856. The last interments were in 1971. Burials are around 55,000 over 25 acres. Today I'm going to show you a few of the notables of the cemetery. There are quite a few within the cemetery. I'm not sure if we'll get around to all of them today, but we will certainly give it a try. The first grave that I want to show you today is not anybody notable or famous, but certainly in my eyes was a definite hero. You'll see in the distance there we're coming up to two war graves, and the first one that I want to show you is that of Albert Walter Henry Augustus Birmingham Murray. Now, Albert was 40 years old when he joined the army in 1916 to fight in World War I. Albert served in France, in England, and saw action in Egypt. In Egypt he was wounded in action, where he was shot in the leg. Unfortunately, Albert suffered from severe bouts of bronchitis and was discharged from the army in 1917. Albert had 4 children. His wife passed away at a very young age. She's also buried in this grave, though there is no marker for her. He raised the 4 children on his own. He was a miner. He worked in the Long Gully mine at Walhalla and passed away in 1944 at the age of 71. And the reason I bring up Albert today is because he was my great-grandfather. So, great-granddad, thank you very much for your service. There are Commonwealth War graves all around the cemetery, but this one, which is virtually right in front of my great-grandfather, is of a J.A. Burrell Army Services Corps, 5th of October 1941, aged 32 years. I don't know anything of this man, but given that he was another serviceman, certainly another hero. You can see the Pioneer Cemetery is just that. There are a lot of very old graves within the cemetery. So we'll now take you around and show you some of the notables of the cemetery. Each of the notable interments at this cemetery have a marker or little sign, if you like, telling you about the person buried in the grave. This one is of David Edward McGrath, as you can see, slain in the line of duty 1st of October 1915, and also his wife Annie Josephine McGrath. Now, I believe this grave lay unmarked for many, many years, and a police detective who was researching his family here at the cemetery somehow or other stumbled onto the grave of Police Constable McGrath, and he managed to get this beautiful monument erected for him. So again, David McGrath, thank you for your service, and here is the sign that tells you a little bit about him. Feel free to pause if you need more time to read it. I included this one in our video today. It's not so much that they were famous, but the McLaughlin family had a long history with serving in the armed forces, and they certainly go into a great amount of detail as to who's buried here in this grave. On the way to our second notable of the cemetery, we'll show you some of the grand monuments that are in this cemetery. Some of them are absolutely brilliant, and it's a credit to the masons of the day to see such fine craftsmanship. Our next notable is of Frederick William Buzaglo, and we'll focus in on the story in a second. Once again, feel free to pause if you need more time to read. Panning around, we have this monument with a beautiful angel. Again, the craftsmanship is just unbelievable. The next grave on our list is of the Anketel family. Now, unfortunately, this grave marker has been damaged. The Anketel family was led by William Anketel, who was a successful farmer and magistrate. Moving on, the next grave that we come to is that of Charles Webb Gilbert. And Mr. Gilbert was a sculptor, and I believe you will find many fine sculptures around Melbourne that were done by Charles. In the distance over here, you'll see probably one of the tallest monuments in the cemetery. Would stand probably 30 foot high. We're now coming up to the memorial for the Casamento family. And the Casamentos were fruiterers around Melbourne. And this is a very, very nice and grand monument. Moving along, we're now coming up to the memorial for the Marshall family. In particular, Walter Edward Marshall, who was a councillor and JP for the city of Collingwood, born in Bristol, England, 1864. Some of the local wildlife. There's lots of them running around. Now we come to the grave of Joseph Francis Hannon. He was a unionist and founder of the Victorian Labour Council in 1900. We now have the grave of James Smith. James was a Pentridge warder. Not far from James Smith is this rather large but unmarked grave of Anna Teresa Brennan. She was the first woman to graduate law and went on to become the second woman to be admitted to the bar in Victoria. And she appeared in her first court case in 1913. We have just another Commonwealth War grave here of Norman Pawsey. Norman was a corporal in the 7th Battalion. And here we have the grave of Friend Holness. Friend was an MFB firefighter. Unfortunately, some of the signs telling you who these people are have weathered over time, so I'm not sure if you're going to be able to read this one or not. On Monday the 20th of April 1908, at Sunshine Railway Station, an Easter special train from Bendigo crashed into the rear of a train from Ballarat. It was on Easter Monday. Over 1,100 people were packed into the trains, returning from visiting friends and family. Almost all of the victims, 44 dead, 431 injured, were on board the Ballarat train, which was just leaving the station when the crash occurred. And here are two of the victims of that disaster, Maggie and Annie Tucker. As we pan around, we come across this next one, which is for William Murray. Now, William Murray was lost in the wreck of the SS Dandenong in 1876. And unfortunately, the sign for this one is well worn, so you may not be able to read it. So I just suggest you Google the wreck of the SS Dandenong. I'm sure there will be information there in relation to that. This is now the grave of Lawrence Cohen. Mr. Cohen was a trade union leader and a politician. He was also a Mason. Believe me when I say that in this cemetery there are people from all walks of life buried here. And here is one here of Samuel McCall, Private Company 1, 144th New York Infantry, Civil War. This next one is probably one of my favourites in the cemetery. It's the grave of Albert Nuts Rennie. Now, Albert was a jockey, and unfortunately he was killed riding at the Fitzroy Racecourse. Funnily enough, the Fitzroy Racecourse was actually in Northcote, or Thornbury, next door to Northcote. He was riding a gelding called Wongborough. Okay, we now come to the grave of Isaac Matson. Isaac originally came from California. and was a Eureka Stockade pioneer. I hope to, in the near future, bring you a video from the Ballarat Old Cemetery where a lot of the pioneers of the Eureka Stockade are buried. As we pan around the cemetery, we're going to come up now to my most favourite of all graves, and that is of James McHale, commonly known as Jock McHale. Coached the Collingwood Football Club to 8 premierships, including the 1927, 1928, 1929 and 1930 premierships. A record of 4 in a row that still has not been broken to this day. Jock McHale was an absolute legend of the club. For the older viewers of the video, you may remember Senate ice cream. Well, here is the man responsible for Senate ice cream, and that's John Paul Senate. Okay, we've pretty much covered most of the notables in the cemetery. We're just going to do a bit of a walk around now and have a look at some of the other graves that are in the cemetery. As this has been my first cemetery video, I've been a little bit nervous, and I've probably got a lot to learn. So any comments about how I can improve, or anything else you'd like to do, just drop it in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to bring you a lot more videos in the new year. So from Aussie Graver, have a Merry Christmas, a very Happy New Year, and we'll see you all soon. Bye for now.